So, I'm a little scatterbrained today because I want to say so much, you know, and Pastor Ron asked me to tell my story, and there's just so many things that I want to say, and I'm just going to, just a couple quick bullet points of things I don't want to miss, you know. I want to make sure I touched upon. Just to give you guys a little background, I stand in front of 30 plus people every single day and give, you know, motivational speeches and fire up groups of salespeople and things like that. But this is entirely different. This is my life. This is my story. I can teach people how to sell. I can teach people how to be motivating. And this is entirely different. So this is real, you know, close to me personally, you know. So I first wanted to just say what an amazing opportunity it is to be a Christian, to be in love with God. You know, to have this opportunity in your life to do something, you know, to make a difference in not only my life, but in the lives of people around me. I don't know how people live without Christ in their life. I don't know how they do it. You know, I see the troubles in the world today, the people that I work with, and I can't imagine having to do that without having God. And I think that's something that, you know, what an amazing blessing we have to be able to, at the end of every single day, at the end of every morning, to be able to lift up our fears, our hopes, our dreams, everything, and give it to the man upstairs. So give the man upstairs a round of applause for it. Amen. Pastor Steve said 2 weeks ago that it's our responsibility as Christians to walk around with joy and to be joyful, and that's kind of where my story picks up. I grew up in a typical nuclear family, lived in West Warwick, and moved to the town of Scituate when I was 10. Nuclear family, mom and dad, brother, nothing different. I was an altar server in a Catholic church since the first time I was able to serve. It was second grade, and I was one of the only people from that church to graduate what was called the Gold Cross. There was only 7 people in the history of that church to graduate from what was called the Gold Cross, which is a pretty important thing for, you know, an altar server. I was a master of ceremony at that church. So the point being, I very much had God in my life my entire life. Very much respected, very much feared, very much had them there, or him there the entire life. That being said, by the time I was 15, I've lived in Scituate for about 4 years now. By the time I was 15, I was already in the Rhode Island Correctional Facility for selling all types of drugs. I had addiction to, I don't know if you call it addiction, but I guess it was, LSD, acid. I was taking it every single day. 15 years old, the terrible things I've done to my mind at that point in time, it's like, you reflect back upon it and it's so sad, you know? But that's what got me. I was charged with 4 felonies at 15. Conspiracy to overthrow the government. I mean, some ridiculous stuff. Yeah. Some ridiculous stuff. And, you know, at the time, my parents had no idea. You know, this was a complete shock. You know, I was, again, altar server, Boy Scout, you know, played on every sports team. I got the Christian Sportsmanship Award for basketball. I mean, you name it, up front, I was your ideal little boy. But, you know, when I left my parents' sight, it was more or less drugs. It was more or less just anything and everything that was bad that I could get myself into. And I know a couple of you guys know me from my youth. You can attest to that. So at 15, I went to 6 months in jail. One of the most crazy experiences of my life. Then I went to 3 months into a rehab. Got out of there in actually 2.5 faster than anybody has ever gotten out of one of these rehabs before. At the time, you know, it was like, this is the worst thing that could have possibly happened to me. You know, going to the jail, spending 6 months away from your family. I was taken 2 weeks before Christmas, ripped right out of school. My parents didn't even know I smoked anything, never mind selling acid. You know, it was just very, very shocking to them to have this whole thing come about. And by the time I got out of the rehab, came back to school for about 2 years. I was clean till about the time I graduated, thanks to drug testing and whatnot. And whatnot, I'm sure. But that's what we call the war stories. I don't want to tell too much about that type of stuff. But the next couple of years went on to start my addiction to painkillers. I ended up getting real hooked on prescription painkillers for 4 years. And that is a demon that you want nothing to do with. It was the hardest thing I've ever had to give up in my life, you know, and it was a good thing, obviously, that I gave it up, but it affects you mentally, it affects you physically, it just ruins your life. And it was about a $300 a week habit at the time. I couldn't get out of bed in the morning unless I had 5 Percocets to chomp on, or I couldn't go about my day unless I had another 10 Vicodin to eat. I mean, it was ridiculous. And it creeps right up on you too. I was doing really well for a while, and it was just, hey, try one of these, and that's how quickly it took me to fall back down, and it got a hold of me just like that. So those years were of partying and womanizing and just going out and doing everything that is wrong at that point in time, drinking and driving. I look back at the times I endangered my life, the times I have put other people's lives at risk. I mean, complete disregard for everything and anybody around me. It was all about me, and that's all that really mattered. My best friend ended up going out to a place called International House of Prayer in Kansas City, and he's like, man, you gotta come out, check it out, this place is amazing. And I was ready for a change. I had God in my life all my life, and I knew He was there. It was alive inside of me. It was something that was saying the lifestyle that you're leading is wrong, but I didn't want to make a change until then. I went out to the International House of Prayer, IHOP, ironically enough, in Kansas City, and they have a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week prayer and worship place going on out there. So around the clock, there is worship going on in a room. It is amazing. And that's where God kind of first got a hold of me again. We were doing a thing called the Night Watch. We stayed awake all night long. There's people that's what they do. They keep the place going in the after hours. It was 6 a.m. and we were just changing shifts. And I walked outside. There was these 2 gentlemen across the parking lot, and they were like looking up at the sky. And prior to me going outside, I said to myself, I said, I'm leading this life. And I really want to change. I don't want to do this anymore. I know this is the road to death. It has nothing for me. I know I'm not gonna. I have all the potential in the world, and I feel like I'm wasting it. So I said, God, if this is what you want me to do, if this is my story, if this is where it begins, my life starts walking with you, I need you to give me a sign. I said, something that is clear and undisputable. I said, I need 2 signs. I need a double slap in the face. Cannot deny that this is from God type of a sign. So it was at 6 a.m. that morning. I walked outside. I seen those 2 gentlemen out in the parking lot, and they're pointing up at the building I just walked out of it. They're going like this. And then he stopped flagging me over. I've never seen these guys before, so I walk over there and I see what's up with them. And they're like, turn around, man. You gotta look up there. You gotta see that. And it's a shame because I took a picture of it on my phone and lost the phone a few years later. But it was a double rainbow that was blasting down into the center of that prayer room. And to me, that was the double sign that I was looking for. I mean, it literally happened immediately. It was like a double sign, a double rainbow, just blasting right down into the center of that room that I just came out of. And I just started, I kind of walked away from those guys, but I immediately started weeping. I went back into that prayer room, and I said my prayer, and I gave my life to God right then and there. And it went on pretty well for, a couple of years. Mind you, still on drugs. Went on well for a couple of years, and ended up going back to school, ended up meeting a girl there at school, liked her, talked to her for a little bit, then left her, went back to Kansas City, tried to kick my drug habit, still couldn't do it, never talked to that girl, dropped all communication with her, came back from Kansas City, got my life back together again, and then called this girl back up on November 7th, 2006. November 7th, 2009, I married that girl. That's my wife, Nicole. So ironically enough, it was 3 years exactly to the date where I came back and called her again on that November 7th and asked her if she'd, consider seeing me again, going back out with me again. And 3 years later, to that day, November 7th was the day that I got married, Pastor Ron and everybody else. So it was really clear to me that this was the woman that I'm supposed to marry, And my life started changing. I got rid of the drugs. I gave that up. Through a lot of pastoral counseling, I talked to Pastor Ron about it. I was like, listen, this got me, and it's got me hooked, and there's not much I can really do. I don't know how to get away from it, And a lot of counseling and a lot of prayer, and it really just helped me break that spirit free. Ended up, engaging my wife, stepping back a little bit, getting engaged to my wife. We moved into my parents' place. We could save money and save up to buy a house and to get married. And spent a lot of time. I just got involved with New Life not too long before that. And me and my wife were living together in the same place, sleeping in the same bed. But she wasn't my wife yet. She was just my future wife. This is in about January. I was getting married in November. And I had so many people say to me, Jake, you can't be living with her. You can't be staying in the same bed with her. And I said, no, don't worry about that. We've made a vow to God that we're not going to be involved in any intimacy throughout the course of this entire year. Don't worry about that. I got that taken care of, Pastor Ron. And he's like, no, you don't understand. He's like, no, you don't understand. He goes, you can't be living under the same roof with her. He goes, Jake, you got your whole life ahead of you. He goes, offer this up to God. Make this a blessing. Move out. Go down to the town hall. Sign the paperwork. Get married now if you guys can't move away from each other. And everything in the world got me angry at Pastor Ron because I didn't want to hear that. I don't want to move. I don't want to have to do anything like that, It's 11 months of getting married. No big deal. We've already been living together for a couple of years. Who cares, right? What's 11 months? That's a long time. In the grand scheme of things, I ended up moving into a different place. My future wife stayed in our nice, comfy Tempur-Pedic $2,500 mattress.
So you moved into Pastor Ron?
And I went and slept on a futon for the next 11 months. At the time, it was the most ridiculous thing I felt. But it wasn't just Pastor Ron. It was my best friend Luke, the gentleman that I talked to you earlier about that took me out to Kansas City. And he was saying the same thing too. And there was other people saying, hey, listen, you can't do this. You can't be involved with, this girl prior to being married. I hated every second of it, but I slept on that couch for 11 months. Got married, honeymoon, all of that was wonderful.